Hello, folks. Welcome to Radio FM88 Australia. And as you know, we have our guests from all around the world. It just so happens that we have a gentleman from the motherland, Australia. And without further ado, I'll pass you straight across to Andrena.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream. And welcome wherever you are in the world, or if you're listening to replay. Today is the 7th of December, 2023, and we're slowly moving into Christmas time. Right, today I would love to welcome David Laws back. We had David here in August, sharing about his flower readings. And today we have a very different story. And the title is Married But Gay. Now, I asked David on the show last time afterwards, would he share how that came about? So I didn't think it was right to ask at the time because I hadn't asked permission. So thank you, David. It's lovely to have you on the show again, and welcome.
Thank you, Andrena, and thank you, Jeff. It's my absolute pleasure to be joining you tonight, and good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to all of you lovely folk all around the world, wherever you're watching tonight. Well, it's tonight here, my time, so it's nice to be aboard. So thank you.
No, it's our pleasure. So with your sharing, which is going to be really heart-rendering, I think, because I can't speak for myself, but I know some of your journey, and I know I can imagine how heart-wrenching it's been at times, and the challenges that you've had, and people like yourself that have chosen to come out. And you know, there seems to be more now than ever that are choosing to come out and be who they are and not hide anymore. And like we said before on the show, years ago, you would have been locked up and this wouldn't have been allowed. So would you like to share, like from your early age, when you started to know things and how it all started to come together?
Yes, Andrena, it would be my pleasure. And many people, as you just mentioned, millions of people around the world have been and are on this journey that I'm on and that I have been on. And the beautiful thing about where I'm at in my stage of life now, I mean, I've come to realize that, you know, this is a journey of learning to accept ourselves with who we are, with the way we're born, realizing that we don't have choices in this. It's not a decision that you make. In those early years, obviously there was a lot of confusion and just wondering why I felt so different, and all of my mates were mates, and I couldn't understand why I seemed to be, have an attraction towards guys. And I just didn't I sort of put it to the side a lot and didn't think too much of it, but I just thought, oh, well, it's something that I'll grow out of, I guess. I didn't have any idea what it was. And remembering that being a kid of the 60s, as you can tell by the colour of the hair, back in the 60s, the word gay wasn't even mentioned. Even homosexual wasn't even mentioned or known. And I mean, I was, born into a beautiful family, and mum and dad were fantastic, and we had a great childhood, and we just lived in a little country town. So, the thing of being gay or homosexual, those words were never heard of and never mentioned, and it wasn't even known that what it meant to be attracted to the same sex. So to answer your question, Andrena, about how it all started for me, I can't really put a time, as to when I started to feel like that, except I guess in hindsight, when I look back now, it was, for most kids, it's when you hit puberty. And you start, understanding your sexuality, and you reach those teen years, and it's a common thing, and people don't realise just how common this is. But I know that for a lot of people, a lot of kids muck around or experiment. I did with a couple of guys from school, but it was still not. I wouldn't have termed myself as gay. I suppose I held the dream of meeting a lovely lady and falling in love with her and starting a family and living the same as mum and dad did. But I just I didn't think sort of too much of it. But anyway, again, living in a small country town, you know, a couple of guys mucked around. We mucked around together, you know, experimenting, for want of a better description, and that's what it was. And whilst it was a little bit of fun, was a little bit of, oh well, that was fun and that was enjoyable, but I still had my heart set on meeting a lady. And this is something I'd really like to clarify, because a lot of people say to me, not so much now, but when I first came out, they said it must have been so difficult just trying to meet someone so you could fit into a category in life. And that was actually far from the truth. That wasn't the way that it was. I genuinely wanted to meet someone and just have, you know, a normal life, I guess. And when I left school, started work, and again, I started dating ladies. And I was fortunate enough to meet my wife when I was 22 and she was 21. And we started dating, and I just fell madly in love with her. And that was the first part of the journey. I won't keep rambling on. Did you want to ask a question, or shall I keep talking?
No. I suppose what I was going to ask you first of all was what sort of age, like you say, when you were young, was this 17, 16, 17, around those sort of mid-teen. In fact, around 15, 16, I can remember, you know, starting to, you know, wanting to explore, or, you know, and, you know, a couple of guys suggested that we have a little bit of fun together, but we were teenage boys and had a bit of a laugh and a giggle, and it was a bit of fun that we all had, and it was just, that was it. And those guys, you know, grew up to become married men, you know, with families and being straight, as far as I know. I mean, I don't keep in contact with them anymore, but in those early years, they just moved on and, met ladies and got on with their normal life. And I've now discovered, like all these years later, that, you know, experimenting or playing around, you know, it doesn't, you know, it's a very common thing. But one thing that I'm at pains to point out to people is that, you know, just because you might experiment with somebody of your own sex, your own gender, you know, in a teenage time or any time in your life, it doesn't mean that you are labelled as, oh, well, you must be gay or you must be bisexual. Do you know what, Andrena? I believe that we are just beautiful, loving beings. We are beings of love. And, you know, unfortunately, we live in a society, in a world that's everything's categorized and everything is, you belong in a pigeonhole. And what's your name? What's your title? What do you do? Oh, there's your pigeonhole. You belong in that pigeonhole over there. And that's the world that we live in. We live in a world of titles. And, you know, doesn't have to be that way. And I believe truly, I don't believe that there's 100%, you know, straight or 100% gay. I think most people, the majority of people, might be just on that sliding scale. Somebody might have one fling or encounter with somebody of the same sex once in their lifetime. It doesn't mean that they're gay. It doesn't mean that they're bisexual. It's just an experience. And but for me, like when I met Lisa, I don't like using the word ex-wife. I like to use the word former wife, because she's a very, very lovely lady, and we're very, very close friends still. And but anyway, when I met her, fell in love. Oh my gosh, it was just fantastic. I'd met the lady of my dreams, and everything was quite normal in the beginning. So, what I wanted to go back is when you were little, because I saw quite a while ago now a young boy, and he was only about 7. He was ever so young, but he had a way about him that was really, like, if I can say, gay.
Yes.
The way, and I thought, my gosh, it was only a little fellow. He might have been 6. I got no idea now. And I was thinking, wow, even that young, he's already sort of on that pathway.
Correct. Because see, that's demonstrative of the fact that we are born the way we are born. No one chooses to be straight. No one chooses to be gay. No one's ever said this to me, Andrena, but if somebody said to me, why did you choose to be gay? I'd say, well, the same reason you chose to be straight. You know, we don't make a choice. I mean, I was born with blue eyes. I can wish and hope and pray they were brown, but they're not brown, they're blue. We are born the way we are born, and we can't deny that. We can lie, cheat, we can do all the things we can to ourselves, but we can't lie to the person who stares back from the mirror as to what our truth is and who we truly are. And again, you know, I think that's the pressure that so many people are put under when, you know, they are in the situation that I was in, when, you know, particularly in a if you're in a family or in a group of people who don't accept you being gay and anti-gay or homophobic, for want of a better description, whatever that is, that can be very, very difficult. And I was fortunate that my journey was a lot easier. I mean, still harrowing, but easier than what some people go through in their life. And it's awful, what some people have to endure, just in the fight of trying to be themselves, But for me, I remember that to answer your question about that young fellow that you mentioned, I actually know a young man who is the son of a very, very dear friend of ours. And when he was 4 or 5, Lisa and I said he will grow up to be gay because he demonstrated all those, characteristics. Well, that young man today is in his mid-20s and he came out at the age of 18, and no one was surprised because that's who he was. But he was much more, he was very demonstrative. He was very expressionable and very flamboyant and, had the characteristics of the gay person, whereas I didn't so much. And, so that proves the point that, I'll call him Greg. It's not his name, but, young Greg was like that. And everyone just said he will grow up to be, not grow up to be gay. He is gay, but he will grow up and he will come out one day. And sure enough, at the age of 18, he did.
So further down the track, because obviously you were married to Lisa quite a long time, weren't you? You've got a beautiful daughter. You've got a grandchild as well now.
2 grandchildren. Yes, I'm very blessed. I have a 3-year-old grandson and a 2-year-old granddaughter. And we only had one beautiful daughter, my wife and I, ex-wife and I, and we have Alexandra's her name, and she's married to a lovely man, and they've got a beautiful family, and we couldn't possibly be closer. My family live in Sydney. I live down in Tasmania, and for those of you who don't know where that is, where I'm in the most southern state of Australia. It's a tiny little island. We call it the Apple Isle. So down towards, in fact, as close to the Antarctic as you can possibly get from Australia. And that's where I live. And so the kids live up there, and Lisa and her new partner live in Sydney as well. So when we catch up, it's, we all get on very, very closely and respectfully.
Fantastic. So with you and Lisa, when did you realise that you needed to go your own separate ways, or it was uncomfortable? I mean, I don't know, so I'm asking you because obviously I've not been in the situation, so I couldn't.
Exactly. And Andrena, I want to be at pains to make something very clear, please. You can ask any question you want. There's no question off bounds. There's nothing at all. I'm very transparent, very open, because I've discovered on this journey that the more open and transparent you can be, it can help others on their journey. And I mean, there might be somebody watching this podcast that we're doing and who might be struggling in some way. So, if there's a question you'd like to ask, please don't hesitate to ask it. I'd be very happy to do that. So when Lisa and I first met, we dated for, I think, 4 years, and then we got married. We got married on Valentine's Day, and we got engaged on Valentine's Day and married on the following Valentine's Day the next year. So, quite romantic, I guess, and it was. And look, honestly, in those early years of our marriage, we travelled a lot. We both had successful careers, and everything was quite normal, I guess. And when we talk about, our physical attractions, our sex life, everything in that regard was quite good. But I still harboured those feelings. I call it those pangs. I had those pangs inside of me that, where I would find my eyes wandering towards a nice looking guy when he walked past. And I thought, gee, he's pretty easy on the eye. And my former wife, Lisa, is a very, very attractive lady, so she didn't have any problem attracting nice-looking men herself. And so, we both had a bit of a laugh. Well, Lisa would say, "Oh God, look at him," in a half sort of teasing way to stir me up, to try and make me jealous. But little did she realise that I was actually going off the same guy. It's just like, oh yeah, he's pretty nice. Yeah. We had a bit of a laugh and a giggle. But even though it was a bit of a lighthearted thing, those pangs inside of me started to grow quite strong. And I thought, gee whiz, I don't know how I'm going to address this. But again, everything was quite normal in our everyday life. to that point, but I could feel those feelings starting to grow and become stronger.
And that's like a hard thing to deal with, isn't it? It's your feelings.
Yeah.
It's like you're bottling it up inside, aren't you?
Oh, you are, Andrena. And this is the thing that I started to grapple with in the early stages. There was the fact that I absolutely love my, I love Lisa to bits. You know, I was madly in love with her, and I loved her. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is just, it's a bit crazy. I'm in love with my wife, and, but I'm still harboring these thoughts and feelings within me. And then I started to question whether I was bisexual. I thought, well, gee, maybe I'm bisexual because I'm attracted to both. I was attracted to women and to men, and carried on like this for a little while. But then in my early 30s, that's when things pretty much came to a head, because I met a fellow who was exactly the same as me. He was married with a couple of kids. He was actually a client of mine. And I'd known him for probably maybe 2 years, I guess. And I had no idea, I had no idea that he was attracted to me. I wouldn't have even thought he was gay, because he came across as very masculine, very manly. And and I just dealt with, his family's business, and they were clients of mine, and that was it. And then one afternoon, he just invited me to pop in and have a coffee with him after work, which I thought, yeah, sure, because we got on well, but it was always a business relationship. We'd never been out socially or anything like that. And long story short, I, visited him in his office one day. Work had all locked up. Everyone had gone home, and we just made a cup of coffee, and we just got into conversation, and that's when he approached me. And for it's a bit of a cliched term, but he hit on me, I guess. And initially, I was absolutely terrified, because I just thought, oh my God, this guy suspects that I'm gay. And I think it took me aback a little bit, because he was just so masculine and so manly, and I just thought, oh my God, is this guy trying to sort of out me? Maybe he suspects that I'm gay and he's trying to find out. But all those things flash through your mind, and I just thought, oh my God, I can't do this, this can't be right. But sure enough, I know I could tell that he was quite nervous as well, obviously. And but long story short, we connected, and we ended up engaging in an affair. And this is something that I want to share with people at this point. We all know how awful it would be to engage in extramarital affairs, and I don't condone it for a second, but I have to tell you, and the story that I'm going to tell you, or my description of it, is this. This is not to condone any aspect of it, nor am I trying to validate or vindicate myself as to why I did this, or to soften it over. Look, it is what it is. But I'll tell you something. I'll call him Glenn. That's not his name. I'll call him Glenn. And when he and I connected, that's when the battle started. It lit the fuse for me, and I just thought, my God, this is who I am, and this is how I need to be. And initially, when we started the affair, we made it very clear that we didn't want to change anything or anyone. We didn't want to leave each other's families, wives, or anything. We didn't need to. We just needed to connect to, fulfill ourselves, I guess. But that's where the real grapple with who I was started. So the reason I'm telling you that is that this was the beginning of my journey into discovering who I was, learning to accept myself, and learning the fact that one day I really would have to sit down and face the truth of me, and make choices that initially would be terrifying, potentially horrifying. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just thought, I just have to, I had to do that. When I say had to do that, it was something that I discovered along the way. And that's where the real battle started, because I had to then live two lives in one. Now, men are very good at compartmentalizing their life. Men can treat their life like a filing cabinet in their mind. They open one drawer, deal with the contents of that drawer, and then push it back, lock it, and then go down, unlock the next drawer, pull it out, and so forth, much like a filing cabinet. That's how men organize their minds. Women can't do it so well, I believe, but men are very, very good at it. And it was convenient for me back then because it was around the time that our daughter was born, and that was a double grapple for me because I, obviously loved my family life, but I just thought I had to go out at night. I did a lot of work at night with my business, so it came in quite handy that I could go use it as a foil to go out and meet up with Glenn. When on the odd occasion we didn't meet up, too often, maybe twice a month. I don't know, not that it matters, but that we caught up. But that was, and when I left home, I always took my wedding ring off, and I just thought I have to be my gay self tonight and meet up with my gay, boyfriend, a secret boyfriend, and that's what we did, and it carried on like that for quite some time, and it was harrowing. It tore me apart inside. But then it started to reflect in my own personal life, because obviously being with him, it started to impact on our relationship, with Lisa and I, because we couldn't, I wasn't able to, perform, as they say, as a husband should. And she started to suspect things weren't right. And I mean, she's a very, very attractive lady. And, she would initially say to some of her friends, what the hell, our sex life's just gone out the door and Dave's not interested anymore. And they said, what? Look at you, my God. You're like a bottle of champagne. You're just beautiful. And she said, oh, well, I don't know. And somebody said, do you think he's gay? And she said, well, I don't know. I've got my suspicions, but maybe he's met somebody else. Well, the truth was I had met somebody else, but it was a guy. And that was the dilemma that I faced.
Yeah, because you've obviously sat with that for a long time before you had to share. And I can't speak from your experience, but I can imagine to a certain degree the heartache that you buried to deal with that and live a normal life.
Yes, that's right. And I can remember back in those days, we had a very successful business, and we did very well for ourselves. I would take her on overseas trips, her and our beautiful daughter. I'd buy her a new Mercedes every 2 years, and wrap it up in a bow, and I lavished her with so many lovely things and spoiled her, treated her like a queen. And she said to me, Dave, what is going on? She said, I don't really need a new car. We don't need this. And the overseas trip's nice, but I just wish I had you, and it just tore me apart inside, because I was trying to make up for it, for my shortcomings by showering her with gifts to show her how much I loved her. But, no amount of physical gift giving or, showering with experiences can really make up for what you can't give as a person. And I was battling and I was losing the battle. And I just knew that it was getting to a crunch point. Just like, I just can't do this. And in the end, we sold up everything in Sydney and we moved up to Queensland, and we bought into another business and went through the proverbial sea change. I thought, this will do the trick. This will change everything. But as we now know, you can move to the other side of the planet, but what you are inside, who you are inside, remains the same. So, changing the outside world changes nothing on the inside. And you can run, but you can't hide. And that's what happened. So we moved up to Queensland in 2005. And in 2007, I think it was June the 3rd, 2007, 11:30 at night, that's when it all came out. So couldn't do the battle anymore. And that was the end of my life as a straight guy. And that was the day that I moved into my truth.
Wow. So when you spoke with Lisa, and obviously she had some ideas, but she couldn't have expected what you were going to come out with. What effect did that have on Lisa?
Quite well, in the beginning, quite an impact. She suspected that, when it all came out that night, I can assure you guys, there were lots of tears. And Lisa said, she said, please don't touch me, don't talk to me, don't hug me, don't come near me. I just need to be left alone. And she sat in the lounge room. She bawled her eyes out all night. I lie in the bed bawling my eyes out all night. Our beautiful daughter was 12 years old at the time. She was in bed asleep, oblivious to what had just happened. And I was terrified, because I just thought, I don't know what's going to happen to my life now and what's going to happen next. I just didn't know what to expect. And it was just the most horrific night. And you know, or as anyone could well imagine, all the things go through on your mind. I thought, if she tries to take my daughter off me or tries to turn people against me, I just won't be able to go on. I just can't live like this. And because, you know, it was my world, and Lisa was my world, my daughter's my world. And I thought, oh God, it doesn't bear thinking about. But I just, you know what, I think I fell into such a deep state of surrender. I just let it all go. I bawled and cried. And then the next morning, we got our daughter out of bed. Lisa never said a word to her, and we looked wretched. As you can imagine, we've been crying all night, big red eyes, and we're blotchy. But anyway, our daughter, we just got her dressed and got her breakfast and took her to school, and we drove her to school. We both had our dark glasses on. We never spoke in the car. And when we dropped her at school, I thought, this is my moment of absolution. This is the moment, this is my judgment moment as to where this is going to go. And I was terrified, shaking like a leaf. And I turned to Lisa, I said, so what would you like to do now? And she said, well, I think we need to go and find a coffee shop. We need to talk. So we drove down to Burleigh Heads and we found a little coffee shop on the corner, bought a coffee, and we sat there again with the dark glasses on, and I never said a word. I waited for her to speak. And she just sat down and she stirred a coffee, and she looked at me and she said, well, I suppose you heard me crying all night. I said, of course I did. She said, yeah, I heard you crying as well. And I was just so teary. And she said to me, do you know what, David? She said, I've spent the whole night in the lounge room crying, and I tried deep within my heart to try and find something that I could hate about you, and I just can't find anything. There's nothing there to hate you for. Well, you can imagine I just lost it. So I cried my eyes out and hugged her, and I just said, I just wish it could be different. I wish I could be different. I wish I could be who you married, or the man that you expected to marry. I just wish I could be him, but this is it. And I think part of the reason then was that I talk about ironic, half of Lisa's family, well, not half, but a lot of her family is gay. She was raised with gay aunts, uncles, cousins. I've met so many gay members of her family, and she was raised with gay people. Yes. And the crazy thing is, Andrena, Lisa's gaydar is way stronger than mine. She can pick a gay person a mile off. We used to laugh, excuse me. We'd meet someone and she said, hey, he's gay, you know, or she's gay. Oh, no way. No, she said, you mark my words. She said, they'll come out one day. And she was always bloody right. I said, oh, my God, I think somebody snapped my gay antennas or my gaydar antennas off, because unless somebody comes up and says, hi, darling, you know, and they're obviously gay, I wouldn't know. I mean, if a straight-looking acting guy come up and spoke to me, I wouldn't know he was gay or not, unless, you know, he made advances towards me. So it was quite funny. But but anyway, once that happened, oh my gosh, it was just, she said to me, do you mind if I ring? She rang one of our best friends. Her name's Dawn. And she said, can I tell her? I said, darling, you can tell the whole bloody world. I don't care. But she said, no, I just need to talk to Dawn. So we rang our dear friend and we told her what had happened. It was a bombshell. She said, I want the pair of you. When you finished your coffee, you jump into the car and come up to my place, and I want an hour with each of you separately. And she was absolutely superb. She was our angel. And but it was about probably a 45-minute drive from the coffee shop to our friend's place. And do you know what? When we got into the car, Andrena, Lisa just looked at me and she said, can you please tell me about your secret gay life? And I looked at her and I said, sweetheart, do you know what? I said, I think you better be ready, because I'm going to warn you of something. And she said, what? I said, I'm going to tell you every bloody thing you want to know. I'm so sick and tired of the lies. I'm sick and tired of the deceit. I'm just tired. I'm exhausted. I owe you to know everything that you want to know. And you know, I mean, you can imagine, Andrena, some women would scratch their husband's eyes out or what have you. And I can imagine, and I understand why they would. I understand that. But I was in awe of Lisa, because she just sat there and she said, well, okay, talk to me. So, oh God, it was like opening the floodgates, and I just poured my heart out to her. And I know this might sound crazy to some of our listeners out there, guys, but you know what? in a crazy, weird kind of way, it actually brought us a little closer, I think. It's like she understood me, and I had such an appreciation and respect for, for the way she treated me. Now, one thing I've learned in this life, one of the reasons why her and I have come together in this lifetime, we're two old souls. We've done a lot of, we've lived a lot of past lives together. I won't go into that, but I've discovered why. But she has been possibly my finest teacher that I've ever met in my life, because she has taught me the beautiful art of forgiveness so tremendously well. The way she has forgiven me, because I mean, she could have made it a lot worse for me and for her and for our daughter. And the crazy thing is, when Lisa was the same age as our daughter, her parents actually got divorced, and sadly it was quite a difficult divorce. And she made a pledge that if ever it happened to her, she would never put our children or her children through what she went through. And as fate would have it, it went through, I mean, vastly different circumstances, of course. But, so that's why she said, look, I will not put my child through what I had to go through, because, mum and dad hated each other, and it was very bitter and acrimonious, but which was quite sad. And it was quite different with us, because there was none of that. There was no bitterness. There was no anger. Oh, well, there was just sadness, I guess, and because it was the end of our life, and I was a mess. I just collapsed and crumbled inside, and I went off the rails for quite a long time afterwards, because I just my life imploded, and that was it.
Yeah, wow, gosh. Yeah. So again, like I said, I couldn't imagine in any way, shape, or form what you both went through, but like to bottle things up for so long. That at some point it's going to erupt one way or another. You just can't, the lids, the pressure's cooking in it. It's, like when people have high blood pressure, I always say, well, what is it you need to deal with underneath is bubbling away. That's all it is. Once you've started dealing with that, you don't need all these high blood pressure pills. But anyway, that's another story. So,
sweetheart, well, can I just add to that?
Yeah.
This is part of what I was going to chat about, because there's a big lesson in this for everyone in life. We have to live congruently with who we are. We have to be congruent, because if there is any aspect of denial, if we deny ourselves, and if we are lying and being deceitful to ourselves, it is going to erupt one day, and mostly it will erupt in the form of physical illness, mental illness in the sense of depression. In the worst case scenario, people take their lives because they can't cope with and deal with their truth. And sadly, if they're not supported by their loved ones and their peer group, it's 1,000 times worse, particularly if people feel as if they are alone and they've got no one there to support them. I was fortunate that I had the support of my family. As I said, don't get me wrong, there was lots of tears, and there were times there when Lisa got quite narky with me, and for doing this, and I understand why, but I did nothing but support her and help her on the journey, and we got through it. We've been divorced for 14 years now, that we've been divorced, and so it's quite a long time. And to this day, excuse me, I mean, I've not met a partner. I've met a couple of nice guys here and there, but this has been a journey for me, Andrena, that it's really been a journey where I've discovered myself, and as a result of me coming out, I think what's happened is that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening, because my life crashed and crumbled. I lost absolutely everything, and thankfully, just after the divorce, thankfully that after the divorce was settled, that we'd settled ourselves financially. That's what was right around the time of the GFC, and I lost absolutely everything, and didn't have a penny to my name. So I had to rebuild my life again, and that was the beginning of my spiritual side. I won't go into that too much, but all I'm saying is that what I've learned about this journey for me is that because of the fact that for those of you that may not know, I'm a professional psychic. So the psychic or the spiritual side of life is my life. That's something that I've just totally embraced and pursued my spiritual path. And I've never been more at peace and more harmonious with myself and with my life. And it's been, quite a joyous journey. But I had to go through what I went through because I believe now retrospectively, when I look over my shoulder, look at my past, I understand why I've gone through all the things I've gone through, because it gives me license to look somebody in the eye if they're struggling in their life, whether they're coming out as gay or whether they're just, whatever's going on in their life. And it's like, it's okay. I understand, because at the end of the day, I personally believe that we have many, many lives. We live many lives. This is just one of many lives that I have lived and perhaps will live, I would imagine. And my soul has chosen this incarnation with the set of lessons that have come with this life. I've chosen to be the person that I am, to be a male person, and to go through all the things I've gone through. These are all part of my life lessons. And I personally believe there is no wrong, there is no right, there's just experience. And it's those experiences that create who we are. They mold us to become who we are. And I love to say to people that I'm always becoming, because we don't become a person. We're always becoming until the day we die. We're always learning, growing, evolving and advancing and expanding ourselves. And I look back now and I've just learned really to become an observer of myself as a soul observing this character. Like we're almost like a character in a show. And the character that I've chosen, that's how I look at it. And you know what? That analogy has helped me cope with this situation tremendously well. It's given me such a tremendous sense of peace. Because it's almost like I feel like saying, oh God, for a moment I thought it was me, but it's not. It's just a character I'm playing, It's not my whole self. I mean, it's not my one and only life that I've stuffed up, I've effed it up, and I've done all the wrong things. I have stuffed up so many times. And I mean, God, I had affairs with I met a couple of other guys along the way. So, I've had affairs with a couple of guys, not just the one fellow. So, you could easily look at somebody like me and think, oh my God, what a mongrel, what a horrible thing to do to your wife and what a horrible thing to do to your family. Yep, I get it. But, I just look at it from the point of view that it's an experience. I didn't choose to be this way. I married with the best of intentions, and I genuinely fell in love with Lisa and hoped that we would, have a very long married life, same as my parents were married for 60 years, but Dad passed just after their 60th wedding anniversary, and they were two soulmates. And I was convinced that Lisa and I would be the same. But of course, the reality of your life and your life lessons pan out as they unfold along the journey, and doesn't always go the way you expect.
No, and I suppose we're like players on a stage, because sometimes
that's all we are, darling. This is just a big show. Life is the biggest stage show in the universe, but it's the only show that has no beginning and no end. And we all come on as part-time actors, and we all got bit parts in this massive show. We all come on, we go backstage and we take our makeup off and take the gear off and take the clothing off. Then we look at the next life and review that and think, yep, I think I'll come back and this time I'll be a guy, this time I'll be a lady, this time I'll be a whatever, and I'll put on this garb, and this is what I'm going to go. And actually, we're in a soul group. We're going to get married, and these are the lessons we're going to learn together, because that's where the soul group connections come in, and soul family connections come in. I know some people may or may not understand that, but again, I'm only just sharing my spiritual journey experience and the knowledge that I've gained over the last 14 years since I became a professional psychic. That only came about after I got divorced and after I lost everything. And like a phoenix rising out of the ashes, that's when Spirit really came to me and said, now this is your destiny. This is your path and your way. And I'd had very successful businesses and careers in the past, but nothing has come anywhere near the satisfaction and enjoyment that my spiritual path has given me, and the teachings that come with it, and the understanding. So I don't look at it from a judgmental point of view. I mean, some people can, but as I said, it's whether people judge me or not is of no relevance to me. I understand if people did judge me or condemn me for what I've done. I understand why they would, but it does not affect me anymore because I've done so much work on myself. I understand who I am. I'm very much at peace with all my stuff ups and all my faults and frailties because they've made me who I am today.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say, with all the different things and the twists and the turns and the highs and the lows, each step is bringing you into fully who you are meant to be and not who you think you are, isn't it?
That's exactly right. And isn't it funny? That's such good words, Andrena, because so many people think they are who they are or think they know who they are, but deep down, maybe they're not. And because of the course of work that I do now in spiritual work, I cannot tell you how many people I meet almost, well, not a daily basis, but often I meet and they're lost, they're confused, they're in denial. And I'm not just talking about from a gay perspective, but they're just not living their truth. And they're lost and they're confused. And again, sometimes they feel as if they want to go down a particular pathway and they can't because, the family won't allow them to make that choice. For myriads of reasons why, and they're not congruent. And that's why I say, we've just got to learn to be truthful to ourselves and to just live and be your truth. And I'll tell you something, when you take the time to stop, work on yourself and fall in love, because I had to fall in love with me. I'll tell you something, when we got divorced, a couple of family and friends all said, "Oh, isn't that great, Dave? Gosh, good on you, mate. You'll be able to now move on and meet a nice guy and rebuild your life." And I said, "No chance, not yet." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Listen, I have to fall in love with me first before I even think of trying to meet somebody. I've got to fall in love with me. And I've got to ask, who the bloody hell is David Laws? Who is he? Who is this guy?" He thought he was a straight guy. He thought he would get married and thought this and thought that. But no, that wasn't it. So, who the hell are you, David Laws? Go and have a chat to that guy in the mirror in the bathroom and get to know him. Fall in love with him first, and we'll take it from there. And you know what I've discovered since then, sweetheart? I've got to tell you, I have discovered that when you take the time to fall in love with you, to accept yourself fully, totally and completely with all your faults and frailties, guess what? The world will fall in love with you and they will accept you exactly the same. They will fall in love with you. And I'll tell you, we are now living in a time when when the world is desperate for true, authentic people who just live their life fully, totally, completely, and authentically from the heart. Because unfortunately we live in a world of fakery, and there's fakes, and there's facades, and so many people wear masks in life for various reasons, and we all understand that. But there's such a joy and there's such a freedom when you can move into an energy and a vibration and just be your truthful self. And you know what? The funny thing is, since all this has happened to me, it's because I have no issue with being gay. People have no issue with me being gay. Isn't that crazy? I mean, when I meet new people, they might just say, "Are you married? Do you have children?" I said, "Oh, no." I said, "I'm divorced, but I'm gay now." "Oh, okay, cool. And what do you do for a living? Where do you live?" It's almost passé. No one says, "Oh my God, are you gay?" Or, "Oh my God," like those days are gone, and I'm very thankful that, the world has matured in a lot of ways. I mean, it certainly has, there'll always be, pockets of society that, that judge, criticize and condemn gay people. And that's the way that it is. You can't expect everybody to be on your side. And I don't expect that. But again, I don't look for it. I don't expect it. I just carry myself. I allow me and my life and my work and my personality to do all the talking for me. I often say to people, just become the walking, talking billboard of your philosophy and your belief. And that's all that people expect of you, because when you've got the courage to do that, and when you've got that beautiful sense of humility, I always say to people, the three things that bring me closer to God is my love, my humor, and my humility. When you're laughing and you're loving and you're humble, nothing brings you closer to the God energy, and that's where your peace really comes from.
Wonderful.
Hey, just a question. The reason that you're on the show tonight, we had you back on the 28th of August, and you just dropped out this little bomb of a, and it was about your niece and her fiance who happened to be in Croatia in a bar,
yes,
and a TV show came up. It was a Married but Gay,
correct.
and then is it your niece said, "Oh my God, that's Uncle Dave."
It's really funny. I will just fill our beautiful listeners in. In 2002, I think, or 2003, 2012, 2013, can't remember. We were approached by Foxtel and asked if we'd like to film a TV show on our life, a documentary, and it was called Married but Gay. And we met up with our producer. Her name was Sonia Humphrey, based in Sydney. Sonia met up with us, and she just reached out because she'd heard they were looking to do a story on a couple exactly like us, one where one was married, but one of the spouses came out as gay. They'd spoken to quite a few people, but one half was happy to talk on camera. The other half said, "Take your story walking." Didn't want to know anything about it. But when they reached out to us, they just said, Sonia said, I spoke to her on the phone, and she said, I said, "Look, I'm coming to Sydney. I'd be able to meet up with you." And she said, "Oh, great. Well, I'll ring Lisa and I'll interview her separately." I said, "Look, we can come into the studio and see you." And she said, "Together?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh my God. Okay. Wow. I've never seen a couple in your situation where two people are still talking to each other." And she said, "Come in for an hour." Well, my God, we met up with her, and we were supposed to meet her for an hour. We were there for 3.5 hours. We laughed, we cried, we laughed, we cried. And I'll never forget, she took her glasses off, wiped her glasses, and she said, "You are two of the most extraordinary people I've ever met in your situation. Would you be prepared to go on camera and film a show for us?" And we agreed, and she said, "You're welcome to invite your daughter in." And I asked her, I said, "Well, I want to clear this with my daughter first, make sure that she supports us." And she was very happy for us to do it, but she said, "I'd rather be kept out of the show." She was quite young at the time, I think maybe 16, 17. We said, "Yep, that's fine." So Lisa and I filmed a TV documentary on our life, and it was called Married but Gay, and it aired on Foxtel. And crazily enough, we thought it was for Australia, but it went worldwide. It went into 87 countries around the world. We were just blown away, and I think we had something like 437 million views in a year, and it was just extraordinary. But it was just so well received. We just got such tremendous feedback from that. And to follow on from what Jeff was just saying, we had no idea where it was airing, which country it was in. But as it was going around the world, I think every person I know that lives overseas, I think they all saw the show. I didn't realise how many people watch Foxtel. But my sister's daughter and her then boyfriend, now husband, they were backpacking around the world, and they were sitting in a bar in Bosnia, because Dennis is Bosnian, and they were sitting there in the bar, and all of a sudden our TV show came up in this bar, and it was packed bar, and everyone's looking at this TV. It had Bosnian subtitles, and she said, "Oh my God, that's my Uncle David and my Auntie Lisa. My God!" Everyone knew that we'd filmed the show, but didn't expect it to be shown there. So my niece rang my sister and said, "Oh my God, Mum, Uncle David and Auntie Lisa, their TV show's here in Bosnia. We're watching it with Bosnian subtitles." And then a girlfriend of mine in London saw it. She rang me and told me that, "Oh my God, I'm watching your show over here." And then a couple of friends of mine in California, two dear friends of mine, they saw the show. They said, "Well, you're live across America tonight, Buster, because we've just come home from work and put Foxtel on, and there's you and Lisa." So it was really, really good. It went all around the world. So it's a bit of a cliched saying, but we thought, I said to Lisa, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And she looked at me and she said, "Hey, Buster, you're the one coming out of the closet, not me." She said, if you're prepared to. And isn't it funny, guys, because when we were filming the show, we filmed half of the show with Lisa and I acting out as husband and wife. It was sort of weird because it was 5 years after we got divorced. We suddenly tried to remember what it was like to be married, and we're carrying on like a married couple. And they were filming us in her house in Sydney. And then the other half of the show was me filming my secret life, meeting up with somebody, behind closed doors, so to speak, and carrying on with an affair. All very tastefully done, of course, but just to to display and show what was going on. And there used to be a venue in Sydney that Glenn and I used to frequent and go in there. It was a gay venue in Sydney, and that was our little escape, and that was our little place. And you know, the weird thing is, I'll never forget when we used to drive in there, and I think it was because it was a good hour's drive from where we lived, so there was almost no chance of bumping into somebody that we knew. So it was a bit of a safe haven for us. And I can remember thinking, this is the only place in the world where I can really be me and be true and authentic, you know, with my mate. And no one knows, no one will ever know the story. Well, guess what? When we filmed the documentary, they asked if they rang the venue and asked if they could actually film a segment in the venue to be part of the show, and they totally agreed. But of course, it was filmed between midnight and 6 a.m. obviously when the venue was closed, so they had actors come in and play, you know, the role of my partner, you know what I mean? And it was so weird to think I had a full TV crew in there, and we're reenacting, you know, all the things that go on there in the sense that I'm telling my story, and I'm thinking, this is just bizarre. Like, it's almost surreal that suddenly, from a secret that no one in the world knew except for my boyfriend, suddenly the whole world was going to know my story and my journey. But again, I can remember thinking it was almost surreal, and I thought, I just feel like I'm an actor, and I just feel that maybe I'm going through this for a reason. Maybe other people will learn from my experience, you know. And sure enough, and of course, you know, I told the family what we were doing, and we got nothing but support, you know. And my parents, who were in their early 70s at the time when I came out, oh my gosh, my father, my beautiful late father, he's passed over now, but I remember the night, quite harrowing, of course, and I can remember stopping at the bottle shop to grab a bottle of whiskey and a bottle of Coke, and to go around a little bit of a couple of glasses of Dutch courage. And I was staying with my brother and sister-in-law at the time, and my brother and sister-in-law knew, but they said, well, please don't tell mum and dad. I said, no, they have to know. Everyone has to know. So I turned up unexpectedly, knocked on the door, and my brother answered the door. He nearly died. He went, oh, he saw the bottle of whiskey. He said, is that for me? I said, it's for both of us. And he ushered me in, and mum and dad said, oh, wow, what are you doing here? Because this was quite a few hours drive from where I lived. And I said, oh, it's fine. We settled down, and they were just finishing up dinner because they were popping in to see the kids. And I'm telling you a very quick, long story very quickly. And they both said, so what are you doing here? And I said, well, I just need to have a talk to you. And anyway, and mum said, I'll never forget what mum said. Mum said, well, before you talk to us, there's something I need to ask you. And I said, what's that? She said, well, there's a rumour in the family that you and Lisa are separating. I said, well, mum, we are, and that's why I'm here tonight. I'm here to tell you why. And their face just dropped, because Lisa and I, they just couldn't believe, because, you know, Lisa and I were such a close couple. We were soulmates, and they were just, what? They was a bit of a bombshell for them. And when I took a sip of the whiskey and I told them what it was, my father got up from the lounge. He walked across to the dining room where I was sitting, and I stood up. He embraced me. He kissed me on the cheek. And he just gave me the biggest, tightest hug. My father used to be a footballer, as Australian as they come, one of the blokes, one of the guys, you know, rough and tumble guy, but a heart of gold. And he stood there and he looked at me. He said, mate, are you okay? And I said, yep. And he said, mate, how long have you been battling this for? I said, Dad, probably all my life. And I didn't realise how long for, but that's it. And he said, well, mate, that's okay. He said, Mum and I love and support you. He said, how are the girls? Are they okay? I said, yep, they know. And Lisa wanted to come tonight. She offered to come and support me and to show you two that she supported me. And they said, God love her. What a lovely, lovely lady. I said, no, sweetheart. I said, you can stay at home. I said, this is a journey I need to undertake on my own. And I can remember all of my family members, my close friends, I rang them all and said, I need to come and talk to you. I didn't tell anyone on the phone. I wanted to face everyone face to face. And that way, if they wanted to berate me or, shill me in some way, well, I was there to cop. I'd cop it on the chin if they wanted to, but not one person was like that. In fact, I was shaking and I was a mess. And I said, oh, I've got something to tell you. And they said, what? Oh, my God, what's going on? And I said, look, guys, I'm gay. I've got news for you. I'm gay. And they went, okay, but what's the news you've got to tell us? I said, that's it, but I'm gay. That's not. And they winked at me and looked and said, look, didn't you get the memo? And I said, no, obviously I didn't, And look, a few of them were surprised, but the ones that were surprised, they just said, well, we're shocked and we're surprised, but you know what? It doesn't change anything with us, David, because we just love who you are, and what you are is irrelevant to us. It's who you are. It's not what you are, it's who you are, and you're just who you are. And, you know, obviously they all asked about Lisa, of course, and I said, look, you know, it's a journey that we're working through, and we've done a lot of PD work, like personal development work. Lisa and I have done an awful lot of that over the years, even before we got divorced. Lisa turned to Louise Hay to a lot of her work when we got divorced. There's a wonderful book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise L. Hay, Hay, for those of you that may not have heard of Louise. And Lisa embraced that book when we were going through the divorce, and it helped us so much, along with Ho'oponopono, which is a beautiful Hawaiian healing prayer, possibly the most healing prayer, the most powerful healing prayer known to mankind, one of the most. And it's a brilliant prayer. It's called Ho'oponopono, and you can look that up on YouTube, and there's lots of information about that. So, you know, I utilized all the tools that I could, invested in myself, turned to a lot of spiritual work, a lot of books, a lot of spiritual leaders, and educated myself and got myself out of the quagmire that I was in. Thankfully, I'm not an addictive person, so I didn't turn to drink or drugs or anything. In fact, the thing that got me through all my dramas was my humor. I always come back to my humor, because I always look at things that make me laugh, and it was my humor that got me through, and my connection to God. And I must tell you that in those early days, I had a horrible, wretched relationship with him upstairs. I called him for what for. I remember one day I was bawling my eyes out on the beach at North Burleigh Heads, because I was just so disheveled, and I was just wrung out. I was just washed up and done. And I just said, you bloody mongrel, why did you effing will make me gay? You know, I blamed God for making me gay and for, you know, making me go through this horrible stretch in my life. But it had nothing to do with God, as we know. I just had to come to realize who I was, and accept who I was, and love who I was, and finally face the truth of who I was, and embrace that lovely, lovely guy. With all of the stuff ups and all the faults and frailties, as I said, yep, lots of things that I've stuffed up along the way. But you know what, guys? Seriously, I wouldn't change a thing in the past. And even Lisa says, I said, how do you feel today, honey, about everything? She said, you know, in spite of everything we've been through, she said, I wouldn't hesitate to press the rewind button to do it again, just to have our beautiful daughter. And because she said it wasn't that bad. And in the 20 years that we were married, it was not a horrible marriage. You know, I mean, God, we hear of marriages where, you know, women and men all suffer DV, they get bashed, there's violence. There's some horrible marriages out there, and there are loveless marriages where couples don't even love each other anymore. They don't even speak or communicate anymore. That was never the case with Lisa and I. In fact, we'd still be married today. We'd still be married today if I wasn't gay, because, as I said, we probably speak maybe twice a month. She'll ring me or ring, hi, Dale, how you going? Yeah, good. What's going on? How's Charlie? Yeah, boom, boom, boom. And Lisa says to me, she said, you know, one thing I've got to give you, she said, you know, she's met some nice guys along the way, and she's met her lovely partner, but she said, oh my God, David, I've never met anyone with your humor. She said, that's one thing I'll give you. She said, your humor, oh my God. But her and I have exactly the same humor. Her and I could look at something, lose it, and people say, what are they laughing at? But we just got it. We just like, and just lose it. And so very finely tuned sense of humor, the pair of us. And but I think that's the thing that got us through. And I can remember in the TV interview, when the interviewer was interviewing Lisa for her part of the program, you know, she said, were you shocked when David came out? And she said, look, I was, to be honest. She said, look, when I met him, I thought I married my Prince Charming. I didn't realize I married the Queen, you know. The producer was in fits of laughter, you know, and she said, oh, well, you know, she said, you can't, your Prince Charming turns into a queen. She said, you don't always expect that. But again, see, this is the thing. Lisa relied on her humor. Her humor got her through as well. And, you know, it's so funny because when her and I are together, a lot of people say, you two are bloody hilarious together. And they said, you should do a stand-up show at the local club, and we could call it Queer Guy and the Straight Wife. Because that's how it is. And I can remember that in spite of all that, when it's all said and done, as I said, I will absolutely love my wife until the day I die. I'm not in love with her, but I will love and adore her as the gorgeous soul that she is until the day I die. And we're soulmates. It's as simple as that. But you know what's beautiful? I did, from a spiritual soul perspective, the thing that fascinates me and I'm thrilled about is to know that all of the healing for us is done. This is actually we've come to the end of a life cycle. Her and I have spent many lives together, but this is the last one, because guess what? All the healing's done. There's nothing to be healed anymore, because she's totally forgiven me and she loves me for who I am and what I am, vice versa. And it's just fantastic. So I'm experiencing in this lifetime an experience of two souls who have finally learned all their lessons. Who's to know that the shoe wasn't on the other foot in a past life and now it's swapped over, but now it's all balanced out. It's like, and as Lisa said, she said, look, darling, she said, I know you didn't choose this. She said, I just know you didn't choose it because of my family. I know you don't choose to be gay. And she said, I feel sorry for me, and I feel sorry for you, and I feel sorry for the fact that we couldn't make it. But, at least we had 20 years together, the way that we did.
That's lovely that you're still friends as well. Can I just ask quickly
Sure.
about when your daughter, because obviously she was at a young age, what effect did it have on her?
Oh my gosh, Andrena, what a great question. Do you know, I when I came out to Lisa, we just made a pact and said, look, let's just keep this between you and I. We're going to quietly work out what we're going to do, how we're going to, work out our life. And we did that for probably about 4 or 5 months. And then I said to Lisa, it's time for me to come out now. I've got to come out to our family, because we separated on the spot. In fact, and to be honest, sorry, I must retract that. We'd separated a couple of months before I came out, because Lisa said, we have to end this marriage, David. I just can't live like this any longer. And I said, I agreed. So, we removed our wedding rings, but she still didn't know the truth as to why. But she moved into a spare bedroom that we had at the house, and we told our daughter that we were separating. So she accepted that, but we didn't tell her. Well, she didn't know why, and Lisa didn't know why, but she thought, oh, okay, because mum and dad are getting on, but they're not connected anymore. But she didn't know the deeper reason why. But when I did come out, as I said, we were working through that for about 3 or 4 months. And then Lisa said, I said to Lisa, I said, honey, it's time for me to come out to all our family and friends. But you know what? I have to come out to Alexandra first, because if she finds out from somebody else, I will never, never forgive myself. Never. And she said, no, I understand that. And I'll never forget the day I woke up one day and I said, honey, today's the day, tonight. We're going to tell her tonight. She said, oh my God, okay. And I remember that night we'd finished dinner. And I said to Lisa on the side, just quietly, Alexandra was 12 at the time, 12 years old. And I said, I'm going to take, her nickname's Chookie. I said, I'm taking Chookie up to get her favourite ice cream, and we'll come back. But when we come back, just turn the telly off. We'll put some candles on and put some incense on and play some nice music. She said, okay. I said, just set the scene. And she whispered to me, she said, just grab a bottle of red wine on the way home. I think we both need a red. I said, actually, I'll get 2 bottles, I think. So I went up and grabbed her favourite ice cream, Cold Rock ice cream, and she's munching away on her ice cream. And I stopped at the bottle and grabbed a couple of bottles of red wine. And when we pulled up at home, we walked through the garage and into the house, and of course, they had this beautiful mood, and there was incense and candles on and music. And Alexandra looked at Lisa and I, and she said, so what do you two want to tell me? You want to talk to me, do you? And we just looked at each other like, oh. I said, well, actually, honey, yes, we do. So we walked into the lounge room and we sat on the lounge. Lisa sat in a lounge chair, and we were on the big lounge, and she sat across, she had her legs across mine, and I'm stroking her legs, and she's sitting there eating her ice cream. And I said, honey, mum and dad have separated. She said, yeah, I know that. And I said, well, you don't know why, but this is the reason why. And I said, sweetheart, I'm gay, and I can't do the battle anymore. Well, she stopped eating her ice cream. She sat up, and she looked at Lisa, and she looked at me, and she leaned forward, and she put her arm around my neck, around my shoulder. And she said, Dad, it's okay. She said, it's okay. It's not your fault. She's an old soul. And of course, we were both sobbing a little, and I looked, and Lisa had tears rolling down her cheek. And she said, Mum, are you okay? And she said, yeah, sweetheart. She said, I'm okay. And she said, I've got to tell you something. And she said, oh God, Mum, you're not gay too, are you? And she said, no. She said, Dad and I love you. And she said, I just want you to know that I'm supporting Dad on his journey. And that's it, you know. And oh my God, it was just amazing. And, you know, I'll never forget. I said to her that night, I said, sweetheart, and we were sending her to a private school, and can you believe it, a private Christian school, very Christian, very strict and very biblical, straight down the line. So having a gay dad may not have been the best thing to have at the Christian school. Anyway, private school. So she said, Dad, am I allowed to tell any of my friends? I said, my darling girl, you can tell everyone you want, because this is something not to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of in the sense of love. And I said, I'm proud of who I am. And I said that your friends may or may not accept me or may, you know, look down their nose at you. But I said, I'm there to love you and support you on your way, and you'll be fine. She was very, very loved at school and had some lovely friends. And she said, okay. Well, 2 days went by. I heard nothing. I didn't ask her anything. Picked her up at school. How was your day? Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, day number 3, I picked her up from school. I said, how was your day? And she looked at me. She said, well, Dad, guess what? And I said, what? She said, I told all my friends at school today about you. So I steeled myself and braced myself. And I said, okay. I said, how did that go, sweetheart? She rolled her eyes. She said, oh, my God, Dad. She said, they think it is so cool. They all want to go shopping with you. I said, oh, we love your dad. Oh, my God, we love your dad. Oh, can we go shopping with him? He's so cool. I went, are you serious? And I had tears. She said, no. She said, you know, every one of them said, oh, is your dad gay? That is so cool. That is so cool. So cool. Now, do you know what? I must just throw this in at this point. It must have been, I can't remember how long, maybe 8 or 9 months later. I picked her up from school one day, and she said, this is horrific. And she said, Dad, guess what happened today? And I said, what? And one of her friends came up to her and she said, Alex, I need to talk to you. And she said, yeah, sure, why? And she said, well, you know, I know that your dad's gay. Well, guess what happened? I think it was a night or two before. Apparently, this young girl and her family was sitting there, and her mother was dishing up dinner, and her father walked in the door and just grabbed some clothes, and his wife turned around and said, where are you going? And he walked up to the kitchen table and he said, I'm gay. And he said, my partner's outside. He said, I just have to tell you, I can't do the battle anymore. And he said to his wife, I'll give you a ring tomorrow. And he walked out, left him, just like that. Wow. Just the most unimaginable tragedy. And I just thought, oh my God, you know, I just felt so sad. But again, no judgment, because it's a path and journey. But I said to Chucky, I said, sweetheart, if your girlfriend wants to talk to me, please let her know. I mean, she didn't reach out to me, and that's fine. But they were just so shocked and devastated, and it was just horrific. And I know in the end, I heard it was obviously very bitter and acrimonious as to what had happened. But you know what? When you conduct yourself with love, and when you have love in your heart for humanity and for your loved ones, and you have respect, you know, we've all got our things to deal with in life, and it's not what happens necessarily to you, it's how you go about it too, because that just counts for so much when you do things respectfully, knowing that even though you might do things lovingly and respectfully, sometimes it doesn't always work out. And you can imagine, I've met a few guys on this journey, and they've had horror stories like you wouldn't believe. You know, horror stories. Some of them were ostracized. Some of them lost their children in the sense that they were banned from seeing their children, had to go through courts to even take a glimpse of their children. Oh, terrible, terrible stories. Many a tear I've shed with some guys through the time, because it was just heart-wrenching. My story has been, you know, I'm certainly one of the lucky ones in that regard, I guess. But I think because, you know, I tried to do it as respectfully as I possibly could, and being open and honest, but by the same token willing to accept whatever criticism came my way. But it didn't really come, even though I was very honest with everyone and told everyone the truth of what my journey entailed, and who I met along the way, and what it meant, but not for any other reason except to say that, hey, this is my path and journey, and I've got to learn from it. And I think what my soul, coming back to the spiritual side, what my soul has learned is that I'm observing this character in a play, and this character's name is David, and I'm observing how he is, the decisions he's made, and I'm observing how he interacts with people, how they interact with him, how they accept him or don't accept him or what have you. And so it's almost like I'm learning to look at it in a benign way, as a step back from myself. I learned that from Eckhart Tolle in one of his books. And as I said, I've immersed myself in so much spiritual teaching over the years, and will continue to do so forever. And now I'm teaching this, which is really wonderful. I'm doing workshops now, and oh my God, it's just so satisfying for my soul. And I'm thinking to myself, I have a big smile because I'm thinking, this is why I went through all the things I went through, and this is why, you know, I've chosen this journey, because all my numbers add up to that of being a spiritual teacher. And at this particular time, and I've just moved into a number 8 year, which is the year of teaching for me. That kicked in September, and I've just come back. I've just returned from Fiji. I've just finished co-hosting a spiritual retreat over there in beautiful Fiji with a good mate of mine, who's one of Australia's top mediums. And we took 18 people on a journey. We booked the same retreat for next year. I'm also organising another retreat down here for me, for my crowd in Tasmania next year. And we've got a sold-out workshop next month in January on the Gold Coast, which is just fantastic. So it's all systems go. It's like, oh my God, now I can teach, you know, who I am. Well, you know, teach my philosophy in life and just show people who I am and just turn up and just be me. And I always say to people, I always take the mickey out of myself, and, you know, self-deprecating humor is the best because it keeps you grounded, keeps you humble. And if you give people a bit of a laugh and a smile, it's like, you know, this guy's pretty cool. He's just real. And, you know, someone said to me the other day, you're the real deal. I said, did you call me a real deal? No, a real deal, not a real deal. You know, so sounded like a real deal. Oh, you're a real deal. No, real deal. So you're a real deal. Sometimes I'm a bloody deal, I can tell you. But at the end of the day, guys, you know what? I just bloody love who I am. I love my life. I'm very lucky to have the life that I've got. I'm very free. I'm a very, very free-spirited person. And when I'm fortunate enough to meet a nice partner, if and when that may be, you know what? I'm ready for it. But it's not something that I need to. I mean, gosh, I've been on my own for 14 years now. So it's not like I'm hanging out to meet somebody. But if I do meet somebody, it will be the icing on the cake. It'll be the cherry on the top, and I don't need somebody to complete me, as they say, because I'm complete. So to me, to meet somebody now would be purely complimentary to my life and hopefully to his. And beautifully, Lisa only said to me only a few months ago, she said, have you met anyone yet? And I said, no, I haven't. She said, well, you know what, Dave? She said, it's about time you did. She said, you are much too nice a guy to be left on your own. And she said, I just hope and pray that you meet a nice guy. And you know what she said, which really cracked me up? She said, you need to meet a male version of me. I said, yeah, I do. I do. I need, because, you know, if I could sort of replicate Lisa in male form, I think I'd be the happiest guy on the planet.
What a wonderful testimony. Oh, that's beautiful, David.
I was over in England. I went to Bletchley Park. I don't know if you are familiar with Bletchley Park, but it was the home it. It was the home of the code breakers. And the leading scientist there was a guy called Alan Turing. And, yes. And being gay himself, and the basic witch hunt that he went through to get castrated.
Oh God, mate, he went through hell,
didn't he? So when we started this. And he was the guy who came up with that whole concept that, you know, basically saved England, Great Britain through the war. It was just the way the hypocrisy of it. But I mean, I think the church has a lot to do with the fact of, you know, my team's greater than your team, and we see that play of Machiavelli's politics, Machiavelli life of us and them and divide and conquer. But for him, Alan Turing, to do what he did to save humanity, and then he went through that whole process of
that's right.
Was it a form of castration, or was it chemical castration? Yeah,
chemical. It was chemical castration. Mate, he went through the horrors of hell. He just went through the horrors of hell. I mean, back in those days, it was just, oh mate, I can't imagine. I cannot begin to imagine the pain and suffering that he felt, both physically and torturously in a mental state.
And he come with that particular gift. So So that's the first thing I want to talk to you about. The second one, before we came on air, was if we went back 40 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
No, mate, no way, no way, no way. I can remember thinking to myself, and I'll tell you something too, when I, just as an aside, the next morning after I came out, I actually rang Glenn, my friend in Sydney, and told him, I said, mate, I came out last night and told my wife, and there was silence at the end. And I said, are you still there? And he said, yep. And you know what he said to me? He said, you lucky bastard. And I said, you reckon? He said, yeah. He said, mate, I'll take mine to the grave. I said, mate, that's okay. I said, your secret will always be safe with me. He said, I know that. And I said, you'll always be safe with me. But I said, mate, I just hope in your heart, maybe for your sake, I said, if you want to take it to the grave, that's your choice and your way. But I just hope that, I just hope you find peace, you know, in some way, you know, with your journey. And I hope you find your way. You know, unfortunately, we you know, well, we didn't part ways. We didn't break up or anything. We just drifted apart. I think mainly because I'd moved away, and you know, we saw each other less and less. And in the end, I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know whether he's come out. I mean, it's such a long time ago now, but we kept in contact for a long time until not long after. In fact, I think it might. In retrospect, I look back and I remember when our show was aired on television all across Australia, I think it wasn't long after that I didn't seem to hear from him anymore. And I remember I tried to ring him once and his number had been changed. So I wouldn't be surprised if he perhaps saw me on television and just thought, oh my God, you know, David really has come out, and he didn't want the association between us known. You know, because I mean, you know, we had mutual friends, and maybe he just suspected that, you know, if people saw me, they'd probably try and put two and two together and wonder if he was as well. I don't know. I will never know that. But it's been a long time since I've seen or heard from him now. And I'll
tell you what else is quite ironic is your family name.
Yes.
Laws. So laws, I mean, one could say it's God's laws. It could be
correct.
Laws. So,
and you know what? It's David's laws. I often talk about David's laws. I've got my own set of, well, not my own set of laws, but I've got my set of laws that I abide by that are my laws. And I'm not saying that they're laws that you or anyone else should follow, but I've got my own set of laws. And because there's, you know, the laws of spirit are exactly the same as the laws of the land. I mean, you know, there's laws of the land, and if you follow the laws of the land, you'll pretty much stay out of trouble. But if you don't follow the laws of the land and you drive on the wrong side of the road, well, you'll hit the other car because you didn't stay in your lane. And if you rob a bank, well, you'll be thrown in jail because you've broken a law. And it's the same as spiritual law. Not that, you know, it's not that it's has major repercussions in the obvious sense, but once you understand what spiritual law is, the basic of the spiritual laws, and start to live congruently within those laws, your life takes on a whole new energy and vibration because you're in constant flow and your life is in order and you're in order. It's a really nice way to be. And just to quickly add on to that, I mean, I'm 63 years of age, and touch wood, I don't take a pill or a potion. I have no medication whatsoever, never have, and I never will. That's something I've just put out there. It's like, no, I will never be sick. But I have got a little bit, I've got a bit of a bug knee. I've got a bug, well, it's not bugged, but I've got a bit of a bug knee, a bit of a click in my knee. It's not a major issue, but it gives, you know, every now and again, get a bit of a twinge. Long story short, I had to go and get a referral from a doctor so that I could get a scan. I don't have a doctor even. I never had a doctor in my life. So I went to a local doctor here, and I went in and he checked me over. He said, oh, I might as well just do you a health check over while I'm here. Stick me up in the hoist, dip the oil stick in, do a 100,000 kilometre check over, make sure the engine's ticking right. And he checked me over and he said, now let's go to the blood pressure. And my blood pressure was 119/79. And he looked at me and he said, Jesus, you're 63 and your blood pressure is 119/79. I said, is that good or bad? He said, mate, that's the blood pressure of an 18-year-old boy. He said, I can't tell you the last time I've had a 63-year-old with a blood pressure like that. He said, I'm 4 years younger than you and I'm a doctor and I'm on blood pressure tablets. Oh. And he said, what do you do for a living? I said, you don't want to know. He said, I do. I said, well, I'll tell you. And I told him what I did. He said, oh, God. He said, I don't understand that. He said, you know what? He said, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to understand it, but don't change anything. I said, well, here's the tip for you. Why don't you come to some of my classes and I'll reduce your blood pressure? He roared laughing, but he just shook my hand. He said, mate, I don't think, he said, I can't tell you the last time I met a 63-year-old with the blood pressure of a teenager that you've got. And he said, what do you put it down to? I said, mate, I don't know. But I said, I'll tell you what it is. I said, I don't think I have any stress in my life. I live on my own. I just live in tune with spirit. I follow the spiritual way and path. I teach, I inspire, I laugh. I have a good life, and I only allow the goodness in my life. I don't allow crap and rubbish into my life, whether it's the news, the current affairs, or negative people. No, I'm very picky and choosy about what and who I allow into my life. So I always say to people, there are two worlds that exist. There's the world and there's my world. And my world I can control. I can't control the world, but I can control my world, and that's the harmonious world that I live in today. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I take my hat off to you, David, for sharing such a beautiful story. And I know, it sounds lovely, but I know on a deeper level you've all been through so much. So
yeah.
Thank you so
darling,
much for sharing your story.
Look,
It's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, guys. Well, look, it's been my absolute privilege and honour to be here as your guest tonight, and it's just been wonderful. And I think part of the reason why I've gone through this journey is for situations like this, where I've been invited to speak publicly about my journey. And I remember when we finished filming our last TV show, just after it started to air in Australia, I got contacted by Channel 7, and they invited me onto the Sunrise program in Sydney, a live TV morning show, a breakfast show. And so I went on, and they invited my daughter on as well, and she agreed to come on. She was 17 at the time, and we went on the morning breakfast TV show. And oh my God, we were swamped when we left that show, because it's live TV, and they saw our TV. The TV producers saw the TV show that was coming to Australia with Foxtel, and they were so impressed by our journey and story. They invited me on, and they said, would you like to bring your daughter on? And I asked her, and she said, Dad, normally I'd say no, but she said, I want everyone in this country, in Australia, to see how much I love and support you as my gay dad. I'm very happy to come on with you. And we were treated like royalty. They just fussed over us, and the whole interview went really well. Long story short, when we walked out of the studio, we switched our phones on. We was both in meltdown. Everyone was just so congratulatory and just said, what a great journey you've been on. So in a way, it's been a healing journey for all of us. And it's enabled us to really, heal ourselves, heal the journey, and accept who we are. And that's all there is to it. Yeah.
And by you coming out and sharing, you give permission for others to do the same.
100%, honey, 100%. And luckily, as I said, there are still a lot of people who are battling, and I personally know probably 2 or 3 people who are closeted. That's their choice, and that's fine. And maybe they will take their story to the grave as well. They're just, friends of mine who I've met along the way who've confided in me. But I said, guys, that's one of them's a lady, 2 of them are 2 gentlemen that I know. And look, that's just the way that it is. But it's not something I would never advocate and say, well, come on, you've got to come out, or you should come out. I would never say that to anyone, because I'm so respectfully aware of where the soul is on its path and journey, because guess what, it may not be this lifetime, it might be the next lifetime where they come out, or it might be this lifetime. I'm in no position to judge whether somebody should or shouldn't come out. It's a very private and a very personal journey. I can only speak for what's happened to me, and I only hope that my own experiences and my own philosophies and beliefs in life can help and serve others that are on the same path and journey in some way, if it's a small way or a large way. One thing I will say, I had a friend of mine on the Gold Coast contact me just not long after our show started to air in Australia, and she rang me and she said, oh my God, Dave, I saw your TV show the other night. I said, oh, wow. She said, oh my God, like everyone knew that I was gay, but she didn't realise that we'd filmed a TV show. And she said, would you mind if we catch up and have a coffee next week? I said, sure. So we went down to Robina, to the shopping centre, and we had a cup of coffee, and she nodded to me and she said, I need to tell you something. And I said, what? She said, after watching your show, I'm totally convinced that my husband's gay, because I didn't know her husband. I'd never met him. He worked away a lot. I said, oh, really? She said, I'm totally convinced. She said, watching Lisa and hearing her story, it could have been me. everything that you are and everything that you went through with Lisa is what I'm going through with my husband. So she recorded the TV show, and when her husband traveled a lot with his work, but when he came home, she actually played it to him, and he was just mortified. He said, why are you showing me this show? So long story short, she said, come on, we need to talk. They had a couple of children, and he actually came out. He eventually came out and told her the truth. So the reason I'm saying, it's a bit of a cliched saying, but if it just helps one couple or one person,
Exactly.
it was worth going through all of this just to help one person. And thankfully, I have heard that their story was very similar to ours. It was very respectfully ended, and it was ended with a lot of respect and understanding and love. So and that's all you can ask for,
And that's the key, isn't it? If you can do it respectfully, in love, and because we just don't know. We can judge and criticize, but at the end of the day, we don't know what that soul's journey is and what that soul needs.
We don't know, honey. We don't know. But can I finish with the most hilarious story? You are going to love this. It was the day our divorce came through. You won't believe this. Now, we got married on Valentine's Day, so that's a day that you choose. Well, you wouldn't believe it, but our divorce was settled on Melbourne Cup Day. Yeah. Because we got you get the decree de nisi in the mail, and they send you notification that your divorce will settle on this date at this time. And it happened to be, I think it was the 5th of November 2009, and your marriage will officially be annulled at 10:30 a.m. And Lisa read the letter. She said, our marriage, it's next week. It's next week, 10:30 in the morning. It's over. And then she went, oh my God, that's Melbourne Cup Day. And I said, oh, is it? She said, it is. She said, do you want to go out for lunch and celebrate? I said, let's. So we went down to North Burleigh Surf Club, and just her and I, we went down, and we got down there at about 10 o'clock, and we bought a bottle of Moe or Verve champagne, and we thought we'll get the bottle there, and at 10:30 we'll pop the cork and celebrate the fact that we're both free and single. So we're sitting there, we're laughing and giggling and carrying on like 10:30, come on. 10:30 came, and then we popped the bottle of champagne, poured in the glasses, and toasted each other and wished each other well on our journey. Well, at that moment, a fellow's walking around the table selling sweep tickets to the race. And for those of you overseas, the Melbourne Cup is Australia's most famous horse race. The whole country stops for that one moment for this fabulously world-famous horse race. And he was selling tickets to a sweep where, you can buy a $2 ticket, $5, $10, so on. Lisa said, give me one of each ticket, please. So he rips off the tickets, and he said, God, you two are celebrating nice and early. You got the champagne happening already. And this was about 20 to 11. She said, yes. She said, as of 10 minutes ago, she said, I'm officially single. I've just popped the champagne. He said, oh, really? She said, my divorce has just been settled. He said, good on you, love. He said, good on you. He said, he said, you look and sound really happy. And it's really nice that you've met a nice guy now, and she said, oh, no, this is my ex-husband. He went, oh, what? She said, no, this is my ex-husband. We're just celebrating that we're going our own separate way. He said, you're shitting me. That excuse the language. And she said, no, I'm not shitting you. It's the truth. He said, what? He said, you're out celebrating a divorce with your ex-husband? And I said, yes. And he said, hang on a minute. He said, something's not adding up here. He said, I've been watching you pair for about the last half hour. He said, you've been doing nothing but sit there and laugh and giggle and carrying on. So he said, I don't know what's caused you to get divorced, but I've got a feeling that if you are divorced, as you say you are, I've got a feeling that you'll make it up and you'll get back together and you'll probably get remarried again. And Lisa said, come here. She said, come on. So he led down, and she said, let me tell you something. She said, unless I grow a hairy chest and get a deep voice, it's not going to happen. He went, oh, Jesus. All right. He said, okay, I get it. And I think I said something like, see what you mean? See what I mean? So, and that's how it was, And I must tell you too, oh, my God, I remember when we settled our divorce, here's the thing, and I'm also at pains to make mention of. There's just so much to the story. I can't remember it all, but this is something that's important to remember. Very sadly, we hear that as it is with most divorces, whether it's a gay, because for whatever reason, involve lawyers, courts, and very costly settlements. Well, do you know, we settled our divorce in a coffee shop with a pen and a piece of paper. and a cup of coffee and 40 minutes. We did it. And in total, it cost us $280 to settle our divorce. And that was the cost of the paperwork. And when the time came, I said, do you want to engage a lawyer? Do you want to go through the court? She said, well, not really, unless you do. I said, well, honey, what's the point? We get on so well, and it's only going to cost more money, and they're going to wind us up and possibly turn one against the other. She said, look, let's just go and settle it in the coffee shop. Let's go down to a coffee shop. So that's what we did, again, down in Burleigh Heads. And we sat down. When we finished, we just a pen, I'll never forget it. We had a pen and a piece of paper, and we wrote down everything, and then we signed a copy for each other, and we hugged each other at the end, wished each other the best. And then we went up to the school, picked our daughter up, we brought her back to the same coffee shop, we bought her a hot chocolate, we sat there and we discussed the terms of divorce that involved her, and we asked her if she was happy with what we had agreed on for her well-being and what have you. And she was totally in agreement with it. And Lisa said, sweetie, because the girls had mentioned to me they wanted to move back to Sydney to live. We lived on the Gold Coast, which is in Queensland. And of course, I was broken-hearted that they were moving away because I knew I wouldn't see my daughter as often, but I never stopped them. I said, no, if that's what you want to do. And they said, they wanted to move back. And Lisa said, sweetheart, if you want to come back and see Dad whenever, whether it's every weekend or you can come back whenever you want. So it was really good. And when they moved to Sydney, we actually packed their car up and I actually drove them down in their car and said goodbye to them in Sydney. I said, I can't bear to say goodbye to you in Queensland. I have to drive you down and, make sure you're set up in your new home. And that's what we did. So I just had to add that little bit in about settling a divorce in a coffee shop in 40 minutes at a discussion. And this is what you can achieve, guys, when you do things in life respectfully and lovingly and having a bigger picture of the betterment for you, for your former partner, and especially if there's children involved. Children so sadly get treated as pawns in a horrible game, and the kids suffer a massive fallout and they end up psychologically damaged, particularly when parents turn their kids against their spouse. It's the most horrific thing. And we talk about abuse. Well, I think that's one of the worst types of abuse that a child can ever endure is the anguish and pain of two people going through a very messy and horrible divorce. It's terrible. But anyway, paths and journeys and spiritual lessons and experiences to learn from. And I think that's just demonstrative of this. I think that we put this down to a lot of the value of investing in ourselves in a personal development sense. Read the books and immerse yourself in good spiritual teachings, meditate, pursue. I'm not saying to become spiritual or anything, but I'm just saying, pursue peace and pursue the things and the knowledge and the information that's going to bring peace in your heart, because that's where the joy of life is. And you know what happens then is that you free yourself up to move on, and you free yourself up to move to meet somebody else. People can get very hung up and sometimes people jump from the frying pan to the fire. They leave one awful relationship and end up with the next one because they haven't learned their lessons, and the next person's got the same traits as the previous person, and so on and so on. So it becomes a little bit of a karmic wheel that spins around and around and goes from one thing until the lessons are learned. And one thing I do know is that we can never progress until the lesson is learned. That's why face the lesson, jump into it, face it, do it, and understand that it's just a lesson. But if you deny it and turn your back on it and don't accept it, good, you keep doing that, because you'll be coming back and back and back and back and back until you learn the lesson. And one day you go, I'm too tired. I'm so tired. How do I get out of this? Bingo, light bulb moment. Come on, time to move on, time to grow and progress. And that's what it is. So I just say life is like a big pie. I like to cut a big slice of goodness and joy and all the craziness, all the things I've stuffed up on and all the good stuff, put it all in the slice, and I just serve a slice to everyone that I meet. Hey, there's a slice of my pie. You might like the taste of it, you might not, but that's a slice of my pie, because life is just like a beautiful big slice of pie. It's got a bit of everything in it, and I throw all the ingredients in. Take from it what you will. We've got a sold out workshop in the Gold Coast in next month on the 21st of January. oh my God, we only put it up last Saturday, and we sold 120 tickets in 36 hours. We got I think 30 people on a waiting list, so it's just blown us away. But this is what I'm going to teach people, is like how to align with spirit and just bring joy into your life. And this life that we're in at the moment is just crazy nutcase, and everyone's so stressed out and so sad and worried. You know what? No. Just create your world and, live your truth, be your truth. And when you do that, everyone who's meant to align with you and meet you and follow you and join you on the journey, they will appear. And the ones who don't accept you or don't want anything to do with you, they will gently just be cast aside, and they'll move out of your life. And then you will discover what it is to live a magnificent life.
Totally.
That's the law, according to David Laws.
That's it, Jeffro. That is exactly it.
I have to say, David, I love your new look.
Oh, do you? Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I just last Saturday, guys, I've got, for a 63-year-old, I've got a very thick wad of hair. I'm very, very blessed. I had really nice, I won't say long, but a really nice and coiffed sort of grey look. And I just went to get a haircut last Saturday, and my barber just said, same as usual. And I just looked at her, I said, no, honey, just cut it all off. Let's have a short, spiky look. And she said, oh, really? I said, yeah, I just want to have a whole new look. Let's go into 2024 with a new look and a new attitude. And I've only just moved down here, for those of you who do not know, but I left the Gold Coast and moved down to southern part of Australia. Much cooler down here, thank goodness. I've escaped the heat of Queensland. I've only been here 7 months, so everything's about, I've got a whole new home. I live in this beautiful 123-year-old home that was built by the first mayor of Burnie. It's a Federation home. It's a grand old cottage, Amelia's cottage, and it's just beautiful. So I've got created a new life. So new hairdo, new look, and new life, and God knows what's going to open up in 2024. Bring it on.
Yeah, watch this space, eh?
Watch this space.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you, darling. I was just going to say, if people would like to follow me, you can follow me on David Laws, LAWS. I think the guys will put the links up there on Facebook, and you can follow me if you wish, and follow my crazy, wonderful journey. And you'll see all the crazy things that I get up to. And I've got some great online workshops lined up for next year. Which is exciting, and they're going to be very insightful and very fun, as well as some practical, and we'll be doing some retreats, so people will be able to travel and join us on the retreats too. Lots of things to bring to the table.
Is it davidlaws.com.au?
Hang on. David Law. No, it's davidmlaws.com. But I'm just, mate, I haven't got that. I'm in the middle of an IT lady's rejigging it for me, so that the page will come up, but you can't connect with it yet. The best thing, at the moment, it's just best to get me through Facebook, just on David Laws, and you can follow me. And there's an image of me. I'm wearing a black leather jacket, and I'm sitting in a garden of tulips. That's my image on the screen when it comes up. So there's a few David Lawses on there, and that's how you'll find me. And I'm also, you can find me under David Laws, the famous flower man. That's my business page, but I don't use that so much. I've really gone down the personal page. But if you can't find me on the personal, follow me on David Laws, the famous flower man, on Facebook, and you'll be able to pick me up there.
Very good.
Fabulous. Okay.
Okie dokie.
Thank you very much, David and Jeffrey. And same time, same place next week. And next week is going to be our last show, because we're going to have some time off over Christmas and the New Year. So join us next week for the very last show of the year. So thank you guys. And thank you, David.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you both. Happy New Year to you both, Christmas. And indeed for all our beautiful viewing audience out there. Guys, my love and best wishes to you all for a very Merry Christmas. I hope Santa's good to you all, and I wish you all a very, very prosperous and very successful, happy and joyous 2024 and beyond. Let's make next year our best year so far in our life. Set that as a goal. And next year for me is going to be a yes year. I'm just going to say yes to so many things. So you can see where the yeses take me.
Fair enough.
So So don't invite me to England, honey, because I have to say yes.
You're welcome anytime, David.
Thank you, sweetie.
Just
Thank
let
you.
us know.
I will.
We'll
All
give
right,
you a
guys. Well,
photo
thank you
tour.
so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you once again.